Hi, my name is Cassidy Quistorf, and I'm the Executive Director of Claim Film. And with me today is Ivana Horvat. Ivana, thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, we're so excited to have Follow the Water in our film festival lineup for this year, especially with our theme being celebrating water. So Ivana, can you kind of run us through your background in film, and what kind of got you to this point?
Yeah. So I have a documentary film background. I started a production company with my best friend called Llama Mama Productions back in the early 2010s. And together we embarked on our first feature documentary film called Finding Bosnia. And that was a personal documentary about my own personal background, being from the former Yugoslavia and from Bosnia, and kind of going back and seeing reconnecting with my roots, but also portraying it in a positive light, because all we know about Bosnia is war and kind of these like really hard topics, which is part of it. But we set out to make a documentary celebrating its spirit, and that kind of brought us forward in our careers. We've kind of broken up Llama Mama Productions since then, but we're both still, working in documentary style films and more short form. The feature really took it out of us. So now we're doing some short form stuff for agencies and nonprofits and freelance. So
Wow, that's impressive. And I'm sure that's something that many filmmakers can relate to after embarking on a feature film, and especially something that might be, so personal to you and kind of at the center of it. So,
totally.
what was that like, kind of deciding to make a documentary, not only a feature film, but something where you're kind of right there in the middle? How did you navigate that? And what did you learn from that experience?
Whew, how
Yeah,
much
a lot.
how much time do we got?
Yeah.
No, I remember very presently thinking in the moment, like, man, this is the biggest thing I've done for myself, my career, and for myself personally, and it's all happening in tandem at once. So it was pretty intense. Um, Although it was pretty difficult, knowing when I wanted to be present, because I was re-meeting my family for the first time. Both my grandmothers passed away like the year I went back. So like we've caught all of this stuff, on camera for the film. And so it was a constant push and pull of like, oh, like if I only had better angle, or why didn't I check the focus? Because it's like a lot of times I was just filming on my own. My partner came with me and filmed for a few months, but three-quarters of the time it was just me. So a lot of it was balancing, how to be present and how to be behind the camera. I learned a lot. I mean, after a 4 year long kind of project, you're bound to learn a lot. And it gave me a lot of confidence moving forward and kind of legitimizing myself. I was younger and had imposter syndrome. And, as a documentary filmmaker, you're like in your house, just on your computer editing for a while. And you're like, what am I doing? So from that experience, it kind of propelled me to, see my own legitimacy, and also opened me up to networking with other local filmmakers, to, kind of again, like legitimize the experience of like working so much alone and seeing how all these other people are working their butts off to tell other stories was really empowering.
Wow, that is such a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for kind of diving into that. That is, I'm sure a lot of people can resonate too with that imposter syndrome and everything. So, yeah, kind of moving into Follow the Water. What was your inspiration for this film? How did it kind of get started? What was kind of the background that really started it?
Yeah, so I do a lot of work, or I work with Metro East Community Media, which in the 80s, and I guess still today, is we have broadcast channels, but we do a lot of work with nonprofits around the area. So we were collaborating with a nonprofit called Follow the Water and the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission, which is a native run organization. And so we kind of collaborated together, and they had this story that they needed help telling. And they had an idea of, how the whole concept, they have a lot of different initiatives that are very tangible, kind of like how to like use less pesticides on your lawns and help the environment in these tangible ways. But this project was kind of this really interesting, like more of a, how do we approach people philosophically, and how do we connect with them emotionally and inspire curiosity and reflection on like water as a whole, rather than here are 5 quick things to do in your house to help rivers around your area. So that immediately was really inspiring, and we developed that idea together, and came up with a 3-chapter kind of format to explore the connection, the disconnection, and the reconnection we have to our waters. And I just loved approaching it in this way. And I should also mention it was heavily told through an Indigenous or Native American lens as well, because it has to be, right? They're the original stewards of our lands. Like, we are just now kind of like leaning in towards the wisdom that they have had for time immemorial, and working together kind of for the first time. So I'm excited to see what the future holds with these collaborations. Yeah, but the inspiration was just for people to watch it and reflect on like how they are connected or disconnected to water, how they can themselves reconnect.
Wow, that is, yeah. And I love kind of that focus on the traditional ecological knowledge and really connecting with the original stewards of the land and everything, and stewards of the water. We always use that phrase of the land, but yeah, I think that connection of water is just so important. And it kind of goes into the next question of like, what does celebrating water mean to you as being a part of this kind of block that we're focusing on for the film festival?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a big topic. Especially we had a really hard time with this in pre-production as well, because it's like you can't talk about water without talking about like the universality of everything. So just like, in pre-production, you're trying to focus the theme and the idea down. I felt like after many meetings, it would just like be expanding and zooming out. And I think that's also beautiful. And, water is everything. Everything comes back to water, which is also kind of the story of origin that we go into, the indigenous history. Water to me, I've like never like even thought to ask myself that. Even after doing this. I mean, the first thing I think about is just like, as a child, how much I loved swimming in the ocean and how rare it was being from Oregon and how cold it was. And, coming from Bosnia, where we would go every summer to Croatia to swim. And just like that feeling of like the energy of the ocean and playing in the waves is just like one of my all-time favorite things to do. And it gives me an inexplicable aliveness and relaxation at the same time. So that's kind of like where my mind goes to with water, just how like amazing that feeling is. But yeah, I mean, it ties like our very like life depends on water. If we're going to take it like further than that, our bodies are comprised of water, and we don't think about it very often. We take it for granted because we just turn on our faucet and it's there and we go on with our day. So it is an interesting thing to reflect on, and you can go in many different directions with it for sure.
Yeah, beautiful answer. Thank you so much kind of for sharing that. And I hope that inspires other people to think back on their memories tied to it, because honestly, that really is such a deep core part of all of us. And yeah, very philosophical, which, kind of going back to follow the water. Is there anything you would hope people take away? One thing, or whether it's philosophical thought or an action they can do that might inspire them. Obviously this film is a little bit more different with thoughts and everything, versus that bulleted list of, turn your tap off while you're brushing your teeth. But yeah, what would you say?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that it's like you have to kind of come back and ask yourself that question and really feel that connection to water in order to propel yourself to make like changes in your life or take action or protest or, all these things. So it's kind of like that's the root of everything, which is what I think followthewater.org like does a really good job of. That initiative is really brilliant in my opinion. So yeah, I really just hope that people just like think about it, reflect on it, and then see where it takes them. See where it takes them and see where it propels them to go. There's a lot of tiny little ways that are outside of the box as we think of as being environmentalists or stewards of the land that you can do in your everyday. And I think that like pondering that question will lead you there.
Great. Yes. And my last question is, would you have any advice for anyone thinking about doing documentary storytelling or, following a project that they're really interested in?
Don't feel illegitimate. No, get out there. I think it took me a long time to go to local meetups or events that organizations like Women in Film are doing around town because I felt like I like didn't belong there. Like I wasn't like I needed to like prove myself first to like think of myself as a filmmaker. And I think that held me back a lot. So just like throw yourself in there, and the communities, at least that I've had a part of in Portland, have been like so empowering and accepting and warm and welcoming. So yeah, just like don't hobble yourself, hermit yourself away, and just put yourself out there.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to say to people who just watched Follow the Water?
I hope you enjoyed it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ivana, and thank you for being a part of our film festival this year.
Yes, thank you so much.